Hey, welcome back to another podcast of Moving the Mountain, a creative leadership podcast. Today we have Joe St. Pierre. He's a commercial photographer based out of Boston. Know him through a mutual friend, or a couple of mutual friends, both Mike and Brian. Correct, right?
Yeah.
Did I meet you through Brian
Yeah.
or Mike?
Probably Mike mostly.
Okay, yeah.
And then, I met you and Brian through Mike.
Oh, okay.
Is how I think about it.
Cool. Yeah, so much different world from the wedding space. Did you start in weddings?
I did.
Yeah.
That was kind of my intro to the photo world.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you get out pretty quick, or what happened there?
So it was really a thing where, like, I wanted to do photo. I didn't want to go to school, like college. So I figured while working, like, part-time jobs, I could just assist wedding photographers as extra income. And then I was like, well, if I assist, I'll get stuff in my book. Plan is to just book my own weddings. And then, but the goal even from that point was always to work more in the advertising world, like as the long-term goal. So I assisted for some wedding photographers, mostly assisted for one guy. And then once I felt like I had enough in my book, I just stopped assisting, started booking stuff off like Craigslist.
Yeah.
And then just did that for like 2 or 3 years until I was doing that. I wasn't promoting it super heavily except for through literal like Craigslist ads. And then always just shooting personal work of like my friends and stuff that I felt like fell within more of like a lifestyle advertising approach. And then from that, just slowly, still kind of in the Craigslist world, getting weird inquiries from people to
I've been there.
do weird shit, and then kind of got like I guess I would consider it like a break working for this real estate agency in Boston and doing lifestyle stuff of their agents, and that was like super consistent. Met a ton of people. And I was getting access to like really cool homes and stuff, or like walking around Boston doing things like that. And then that kind of just helped snowball. But I also started really young at it. So like I feel like because I didn't go to school and I just started assisting and building my portfolio, that whole period was kind of like I just had like a lead in a way. Instead of like going to school and having someone assign me tasks to create like a product shoot or this or that, I just did what I wanted, and I had like a loose goal of where I wanted to be, and then my career kind of just shaped around that through like meeting people and opportunities and taking chances on things and stuff like that has kind of been. So now, I mean, my ultimate goal is still the same and I still fall within that, but it's just an interesting way of how it all shaped through just like opportunities that arose and then just making the most of it.
Yeah, we have a kind of a similar story there, because that's kind of how I got my start. I was I didn't want to go to school for, I actually started as like a musician, and then ended up going to like a more of a leadership kind of school. It was like a 9-month program, and in order to do that, I was like answering Craigslist ads and doing like rap videos and things like that. And that's how I found like a guy who needed an assistant for weddings. Yeah. And that kind of opened up my eyes to like a whole new world. I was like, oh, okay, like people like make good money. Like you make a living at doing this. So it didn't seem too far off. And I think like a little bit before that, my friend had got like a nice DSLR, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Can I borrow this? And, he let me, and I like shot, I tagged along on a wedding with a friend of mine, and I really enjoyed it. So that's you have an interesting story, an interesting approach. I never knew that kind of stuff. All I knew was like you were very kind of landing big clients in the commercial world, which interests me greatly. You had mentioned real estate though, and I feel like that's a hard industry to break into for a photographer, because I feel like the margins, from my experience, are super small. Yeah. And like real estate agents don't really want to pay for, the photography.
Yeah. So it was different because I don't know. I know you're kind of into that stuff too, like real estate or just like general things that fall within entrepreneurship. but the company was called Compass. They were kind of like a startup. And their whole thing was like, it wasn't necessarily I was shooting listings as much as they had a group, like a small group of agents. They were like I said, they were more startup. They actually just went public, which is interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So they had like a small group of kind of elitist agents in Boston, like the people that were doing the best business. And they were just like super focused on the marketing of the agents. So it wasn't, when I got hired by them, it was, we want you to just make the agents like, in, you know, the typical real estate agent headshot or like the cliche, it's like super cliche, that whole world of their headshots and the way they present themselves. And they want it to be more of like a cool lifestyle approach where they're walking around the city or they're at a cool coffee shop or at a bar or like something that makes them feel more human. So I was just hired to do that. So we would go out for like an hour, 2 hour session. They would say like, oh, I know a friend that has a sweet house, or my friend's an interior designer, or I go to this bar in the South End all the time, and we would, or this coffee shop, and we'd go around there, walk around Boston, take photos. And it was like a true lifestyle approach to it. And then just through that, meeting these people, I was the first photographer they hired. And because I had time, they were like, oh, well, you're doing great work. We'll just float you everyone. So everybody that came in, it was like I worked for them in-house, but I was still freelance. Like they just gave me all the work, and they were growing pretty rapidly. So at the same time, it was like these people, given the business they do and the people they know, getting in with them led to other opportunities with like, oh, I know this person that owns a restaurant, or just like stuff like that. And then it's just like, oh yeah, I have this photographer, Joe. Like we love Joe. And that's kind of, it was like a snowball effect. And then that just led into, yeah, like meeting people and just like networking in Boston, I guess.
Yeah. So they had a totally different approach to real estate. It wasn't like you're just trying to get some photos for this listing. You're actually trying to like create a brand.
Yeah, it's like
for them.
Yeah, so Compass had they have like a very established brand for the real estate agency itself. But and because of that, they were very strict on like, if you're an agent with us, the way you present yourself in your marketing with your images and stuff like that, they had like pretty strict standards they were trying to fall within. So they wanted like it's not that I didn't have any creative freedom. I had plenty of creative freedom, but they were looking for people that fell within this certain aesthetic. And then it was really like, hey, maybe me and the agent would work through like a few spots that they liked, but it was really up to me to like make the most of that and suggest things and try like finding cool ways to make them look like they're busy on their phone in the center of the city. You know what I mean? But like I did that. I started off and maybe it was like once a week, and then I was there like almost every day, like multiple like back-to-back shoots, like 2-3 a day. But it was just like, I'm super grateful because it was like my first real networking experience with people, and especially of people that like they're having like multi-million-dollar listings. Like they're like well-established people in the city that know well-established people, you know? So it was cool being 20, 21, 22 and just even being around those people and seeing like the way they work and just like meeting people that way. It was a great experience.
Yeah. You probably learned so much just from like observing them.
Yeah.
I would think like these are professionals. I feel like living in Boston too, like people just, I think people like are more successful in Boston.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
well, I mean, the cost of living is so high.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that goes with any major city. You're always going to find people of all spectrums. But yeah, I think if you're living in the center of Boston, like within those like South End places like that, it's generally very successful people.
Yeah. So that probably just like opened your eyes to like that whole world. You got connections. So
Yeah.
you're shooting these listing agents who are listing houses in the millions, and they're probably like, oh, I actually need some photos done of this house.
Right.
Is that essentially how like it kind of snowballed?
Yeah. So that's how it snowballed. And then, I mean, I started shooting listings. I think that to circle back to your point where you're like, it's a small, they don't want to pay that much. I felt like I was trying to charge a premium for it.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, well, I know I'm with you guys all the time anyway. I'm getting such good business doing the lifestyle stuff that I don't want to say I'll shoot your listing for significantly less than the lifestyle session just because I want to keep my prices at a certain point, and I also want to kind of be perceived as like a premium service. Like I was like, I feel like my talent levels at this point, you guys already know me. You know I'll show up on time. I'm trusted. Like, you know you're going to be happy with it. So I felt comfortable kind of charging that more premium real estate service fee, I guess.
Did they go for it?
Yeah, a lot of them went for it. I wouldn't say I did like a ton of listing photography just because it wasn't my thing as much. I like shooting interiors when it's for like an editorial job or something like that, where it's more real estate photos is just very kind of like strict and they want what they want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And especially it was almost even these real estate agents, I know so many of them still, and I love so many of them, but it's just like part of the job. They kind of have big personalities, and they expect a lot. And especially when it comes to their listing, if you're shooting a $1.5 million condo or something, they care so much more about that than their lifestyle session is what I found. So like it was more like fun, creative to go out with them, and they're like, I don't know what. This isn't my expertise. I'm just trusting you, and I'm always happy. But like when you're shooting their listings, it's like, nah, I've been doing this for years. Like I know what to expect. I know what I need you to do. So that was like, I think the limitations on that drew me less into it. You know what I mean? I was like, the money's not as good, and like it's just kind of a lot. Like I understand why this is so important to you, but like. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
really
cool to see a lot of places, though.
Yeah. I saw some of your real estate work, and like it's awesome. And I love real estate photos.
Yeah.
Like really nice homes. I'm a big fan of like architecture, so it's like, you know, we just did some of the photographs of this building, but it's so tricky. Like you know, it was our first time doing it. We bought a course on it. We're trying to like figure it out as we went. Hopefully they don't hear this.
Dude, that's what I did. Literally, I had one listing. This one agent was like, hey, you want to start shooting listings for us? And I like freaked out. I bought like what's his name? Kelly. He's like this Kelly, I forget his last name. He's like a big real estate photographer. I bought like a tutorial. And I like watched it the night before just to like cover my bases. But really, like even that, my mindset is always, how is this thing leading to the next? Like I didn't want to shoot real estate photos. I wanted to shoot in like for like an interior designer for a magazine or something like that. So I was like, well, I don't have interiors in my book. What's the first step that could get me towards there? Is real estate. And it's, in my eyes, it was like such lower risk. Like I was like, if I mess up a listing, I'm not really going to mess it up so bad. And it's like, they're not paying me so much that they couldn't afford to have someone redo it. And then also like, along with getting what they want, I'm going to try to get things that I think are cool, like maybe a tighter vignette, or like just this one part of this condo or house looks cool to me. Let me compose like a more stylized photo of this that they'll get, but it's more for my portfolio, as if like for what I see like a magazine editorial is looking for. And then that even goes back to like shooting the lifestyle stuff of them. I was just shooting stuff of my friends because I had no clients like in high school and stuff like that. but that's the work that got me the work. To They're like, whatever you're doing with these people that are like young and cool, do it with our agents who are older, don't understand this. You know what I mean? So, and that's like my whole career is just like, what can I get now, and think of it in like a bigger picture of how is this building my portfolio?
Yeah. So what is like where are you trying to go? Do you feel like you've gotten there?
It's really tough. I feel like I'm where I want to be, maybe not 100%, but I feel like I'm like 85, and I feel like the rest, I know the projection for where I want to be is there, and everything's kind of falling into place. And now it's more like I see the trajectory, and I know if I play my cards right, I'll get there. Or if I do things in a certain pattern, if I just keep the pattern going, I should get there. And then, but now I'm like, but what if I disturb that pattern a little bit and try other things too, to get myself to where I want to go plus more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like branch, like not just work as a commercial photographer, but have other things I can offer, or go more into a educational, like build a course or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're actually just talking about building courses, because I feel like it's one of those things, like you can be in the service business, but to be in the service business, like you have to continually be providing a service, the shoots, the editing, which some you can delegate and like outsource, but essentially like you're going to be the one shooting it and that kind of thing. Whereas like a product-based business, or an educational like based product, you have to build it once. And then let it go. Yeah. So I like the idea of that.
Me too. Me too. Love the idea.
Yeah.
Like there's people that do, like, I don't know if you follow, I don't really admire his work necessarily as much as I just admire him as like an entrepreneur that's a photographer. Do you know Chris Burkhardt?
I don't.
Oh, he does like, he's like a crazy landscape. He's like a Sony ambassador, which I'm not interested in landscape photography at all. But the way he's built his like brand, and the way he does like commercial jobs, and then he'll do brand deals, and then he'll do courses, and like he has so many things that it's like if he's not getting commercial work, he still has such a flood of income. And then eventually it's like, yeah, he can just do what he wants. You know what I mean?
Right. So do you feel like that is the ultimate goal of like most everybody, but most entrepreneurs, just like the ability to just have an open schedule to like be able to do what you want?
I mean, I think it is. I think what I find is like, especially as like me and you are creatives first in a way, but we're also so business minded. Like, and I don't know these people personally, but there's definitely a group of people that like do commercial photography or do weddings or something, and they're like, this is good enough for me. Like, I'm just a creative. I don't like the business side of it much. I just do my thing that way. Obviously, I started in YouTube, I assume. We started our business as like, I want to be a photographer in whatever shape or form that is. Like, I just want clients and I want to make an income doing something creative. But having that, I know people that are creative and they don't have that like business, as much of a business entrepreneurial mindset. So it's interesting. I find it super interesting having almost equal parts creative and entrepreneurial business, that mindset of like, yeah, I'm a creative and I can be hired for a service, and I care about my art and like becoming the best photographer I can be. But I also am so interested in like all the other things this could provide me, like other avenues of like building, like actually building a business, and not just, like you said, being a service, like building things, or even outside of creative things like investing in real estate or anything like that. Like how can I just build, like how can this being service-based business build a larger scale business and then build like my wealth. You know what I mean?
Are you interested in like having a team, or are you more would want to like gravitate towards like the educational side?
So I think it's tough because like in the commercial photography world, what I find is usually you get pitched a job, right? Someone's like, hey, I want to work with you on this. And then you bid against a bunch of photographers, kind of like weddings. Someone might reach out to a bunch of wedding photographers. You put in your estimate, you kind of try to sell yourself. And then if they want to work with you, you might be like, all right, now within this bid, I'm going to hire a producer to deal with hiring models and finding the space, or getting permits for a house if we need to shoot at a house, or getting like hiring assistants, hiring just like all the pieces that need to go into so I can show up and just take photos and focus on that aspect. There's that part of like you do your thing, you manage everything yourself, and then once you need people, you just kind of hire a team for like a one shot. But you might have people that you, every time you get a job, you're like, oh, well, I work with Eric for whatever, he's assistant, and like I always bring him on, he's my guy. But he's not like, I'm not paying him payroll, you know what I mean?
Right.
But then there's the other aspect of like, you could build a team, I guess, and if you had enough work coming in plus other things you were building, yeah, you could say, I have some interns, maybe I have one full-time employee, and they have multiple roles, but when I'm on set, maybe one of you comes as my assistant, two of you come as my assistant, and then the rest of you are working on back-end stuff or whatever else is going on in the business. I think naturally I like that idea of building a team. And that's kind of where I'm at now, where I'm just seeing the first glimpses of like starting to really consider that and even bring on like an intern. But it's an interesting process because I don't feel like that's the norm when you're just like a advertising photographer for the most part. I feel like you usually just hire people as needed, and then you might have like an agent and stuff like that, and they just kind of help you out, but you're still just you. But I like the idea of having like a team of people that I can trust, know how I work, and then can like build other things. You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like that's super important too. Like you're probably getting these bigger clients, and I would think like if I landed like a big client off the bat, I mean I personally wouldn't know what to do as far as like getting the right people in the right places, because we're like I think we're in a different world. But
yeah,
I would think even with you landing a big client, you probably want people that you've worked with before,
right?
That you're just like, oh yeah, this guy's great. Like, you know, he's gonna pick the best location. He's gonna pick like he knows the kind of actors. Like he knows how to pick actors and models and things like that. Yeah, so I can see like wanting to work with the same people over and over. Is it not like that in the industry where like you know you're kind of?
Well, I mean, it is. Everyone has their people that they want to continually work with. Like I have an assistant who also does. He's also like a digital tech. So on the shoot, he has like basically a computer rig that I'll shoot into, and he'll do like file management and make sure things are going smooth on that end. But he's not always available. Like there's a lot of people that also love using Cam. And like if if someone else is busy and booked him, then I have to find someone else. So it'd be ideal to have someone that I could be like, listen, I pay you you're an intern, and I pay you part-time or whatever. And like, this will be your, like, you'll have other roles when we don't have jobs, but like on set, this is your role, and I can train you how to do that. So then I'm always like, hey, we got to shoot, like, come, I know that's ready to go.
No, is that kind of like almost an ad agency? Where it's like someone like a brand would go to an ad agency and they kind of have all those people and the photographer?
So usually it's the ad agency has the client, an art director or a creative director, reaches out to photographers for a bid, like based on your work. If they're like, okay, based on the scope of the project and what we want the look and feel to be, we think your work would be a good fit. And then you go through the like calls and estimates and rewriting estimates and saying I need this much and them saying could you do this much, and it's like it's just like that dance.
Yeah.
And then but they also like as the ad agency they'll be like, okay, X from the client is coming, going to be on the shoot, and we'll have creative director, art director, whoever from the ad agency on the shoot. But then I'll just in my proposal be like, okay, I need a digital tech and an assistant, and then it just depends on the job, like how much you need, or if like some agencies have producers in house, some don't. So you have to be like, oh, do you have a producer? If not, I'm certainly not producing this, but I can hire someone that's a freelance producer that knows how to get a shoot ready home with permits and COVID releases and like all this stuff, which is like, I don't want to deal with that.
Right. Yeah, we did a commercial shoot, but it was video, and I mean, I think we had found the client fairly decent sized business, but you know, I think we found them like on Facebook in like a Facebook forum or something like that, looking for a video. And it was a little bit like that. They had some clients that they were like, we can shoot at their spot. It was like, okay, great. But then like, as far as finding models, they're like, do you guys have any friends? You know? And I'm like, yeah, we do.
Yeah, right.
But even finding friends, like you're calling in favors, or you're paying a little bit.
Yep.
And then, you know, even that's like, these aren't professionals.
Right.
Then they were kind of managing actors, so having actors come in, but the actors are showing up like no wardrobe, no hair and makeup.
Right. There's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, and so I'm there, and I'm just like learning all these things, like on the spot. And
that's how you have to do it, though.
Right.
I didn't know this stuff. I've bid on some jobs this year where I had to like reach out to a freelance producer for the first time and be like, okay, this is like things are getting bigger. I can't handle all of this. And then like learning about I was like, wait, why can't we just get an Airbnb that's cool or something like that and shoot there? And she was like, no, you need like you need permits, and like if we need to take furniture out and build things in, like there's so much more. And I'm like, oh, well, this is why I hire you, because the client doesn't know that I have no clue.
Right.
But like it's cool if I tell you I have no clue, because that's your job.
So you need permits just to shoot anywhere, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not really. But I think if it's a job where like we need a house and we need a props house to come in and we need to pick the right couch and we need to move furniture and like have a team in and set up lights and all this stuff. Yeah, there's certain people that have properties or whatever that are like shoot ready, and then there's like any legal stuff that goes into that. Say my light explodes or whatever on set, like there's just like the legality of it is set, you know what I mean? Instead of being like, oh well, I know, like I was on a job and I was trying to sell myself, I mean I was pitching for a job and they're like, we want it to look like super lived in, and we don't want it to be like the perfect house. Like we're trying to go for a younger demographic. And I was like, oh, well, I have a network of like I said, higher end real estate agents in the Boston area. I can reach out to them, see if they know anyone, if they have any cool listings, and they love that idea. And then I brought that idea to the producer, and they're like, that's never going to work, Joe. Like, it's just not going to work. Like, we have to have these legal things set in place. And I was like, I didn't know that. So it's interesting.
And
it makes sense though.
Yeah. I think that's what like clients like don't understand, or at least in my experience, my very short experience, like trying to get into the commercial realm, is just like, you know, even what might seem like it's a good budget. Yeah, that budget, like we could make it happen for that budget.
Yeah.
But then like you're not thinking about all the things that kind of go into it.
Yeah. I mean, with experience too, you learn to be like, this is your like I've learned to be like, okay, if this is your budget and this is the scope of the project, this is what we can realistically do within that scope of the project. Like, you obviously want the world, and I understand as the client or the ad agency, you want as much as possible within this budget, but the reality of it is you can't, or you need to pay more or get more from your client or whatever, and we can do this within that budget. And then, but with experience, you are like, and this is why. Like, I've had experience now where we tried this and this is the things that came up, and I don't want to run into that with you. And then they inevitably appreciate that when you're like, I've been there, done that, dude. Like, this isn't going to work.
Right. Yeah, I think that shoot was just like, you know, they had the people that worked there kind of being the actors and things like that.
Which I've done so many of those too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
it wasn't
I'm not
too bad.
Not every shoot has pro models and like the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
I'm good at making myself look like that, but that goes into building your brand as a whole anyway.
Even have someone like understanding having someone on set that's like looking at, you know, props and things like that and how where like things are moving things and like that would have been super helpful.
Oh yeah.
You know, where you can just literally just focus on, you know, getting the shot or whatever it needs to.
Yeah, and that's a lot of like these advertising jobs that I'm getting. It's like, yeah, like we need a food stylist or a prop stylist or someone that can curate this stuff or knows how to make an avocado not go brown in 2 seconds. Like, because these are the things that make the biggest difference. And back to what you said, the more I can just focus on my job as a photographer and worrying about the light and working with the models and being creative on set, like it just makes everything else falls into place so much quicker.
Right.
Because that's all I want to do. It's like, I want you to hire me because I want to be creative, and you're hiring me to, we might have a mood board and we might have images we're trying to get to, but like I know how to suggest a movement from the model or direct light in a certain way that might be better than what you were expecting, or manage things on set that affect the creative. But like, I don't want to be like, hey, can I look at all 5 bowl choices? Like, no, I want someone to be like, hey, I think this is the best bowl for this, and me be like, yeah, I trust your opinion and your style. That's why I hired you, you know?
Right. Yeah, there was one shot that you showed me, I think, not that long ago, and it was in a studio, but it looked like you were at the beach.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a top-down photo. Was it for like a beer or like hard seltzer?
It was seltzer.
Yeah.
It was just normal seltzer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was sick though. I was like, that's awesome. Like to be able to like create that in a studio.
Right, but if I had to create that all on my own, like if I had to figure out the sand and getting the sand to look real and all that stuff when it came out the same way, all I had to worry about was angle, getting the light right, and then help direct models to be like, hey, try placing it here, or we can't see the logo of the can, or like just being like, I don't like how the light is falling on your skin in this area, let me fix that. And then the prop stylist the whole time is like, I don't like how the sand looks in that area, let me fix that, and I don't have to worry about that stuff. Like, I'm just focused on light composition mostly, and then anything else like the beach towel or the waves in the sand or the way the cooler looks. Like, I can have say in that, but I have people that I've worked with enough that I trust their opinion on it more than my own. So I'm like, it always looks good when I just let you do it. I'm not going to say a word. Maybe I'll say 1 or 2 things, but it's just because you overlooked it or something, I saw it.
Right.
But they're not like, hey, can you fix your light? I don't like it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
How many like unique shots do you feel like you'd get out of a shoot like that for your client?
It's tough. Every shoot is different. I think sometimes, like, say we're doing like a social campaign where we're just building a library for Instagram. I get a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, so they're looking for a certain number of shots. Like, hey, we
Yeah, so
need
they might be
content
like,
for 2 months, a year.
yeah, more. I think usually it's more like maybe like 2 or 3 months. It depends, because like I work a lot with this agency in New York who I've really established like an amazing relationship with. And a lot of these bigger advertising jobs are coming through them, and they're just social. That's like their whole agency. So they might be like, hey, we need photo assets for like 3 months, but also within their feed, we're going to trickle in more like designed focused stuff so it evens out.
Mm-hmm.
But we might do like, they might have like 60 shots they want. And then they are like, how many days do you think this is going to take? This is the budget we have. Can you make it work? And sometimes you're like, oh my God, you guys, you're really going to kill me. Like, that's the budget and you want this many. Realistically, we should do a week and a half. But for what you want, I can do like 4 days.
So it's not just like you do that one setup. So like take like the sand, shoot that you had done, like, and you get 60 unique images. Maybe do different placements of the hard seltzer or the seltzer.
That's usually like
different
one
models.
or two. That's like that's still maybe we get a GIF. Maybe we go in tight and we can find another one, but usually that's more for that type of client. That's more of a unique situation where we like we built that in studio because we couldn't go somewhere. Like it was COVID. You know what I mean? Like, and in an ideal world with this agency I work with, the creative director was like, in an ideal world, we're flying to Southern California and shooting this somewhere on the beach, running around, like, and that is so much easier to get such a large asset grab because it's like the location will do the bulk of the work. But because of COVID, when they are like, well, we still need 60 assets, but we have to build everything in studio, takes an hour to build a beach for one image and maybe a GIF.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's challenging.
Because originally when I connected with these people, we did a shoot for Peroni Beer and we went to West Palm Beach, Florida, and we shot like the Four Seasons. And the Four Seasons is like incredible. It's like everywhere there's a photo, and we had models, and we were just like, we had a shot list of like, okay, we need them in the pool, we need them at the bar, we need them on the beach. But it was easier to say, all right, but in between the beach and the bar, there's this sweet boardwalk thing. Let's do a few quick, and then they can be like, oh, actually, those look great. Let's cross a few other things off the shot list. These can replace them. You know what I mean? And it's just the locations doing all the work. But when you have to build a beach in studio, it's like
limiting.
Yeah.
Is there someone from like the company that is like giving feedback on the set, like, oh, that's great, or like we're looking for something like this, and kind of like directing a little bit?
Yeah, so it's always like creative director or an art director. There's always someone on the creative team there we have a shot list, we have example photos that they've pulled of like, this is the general idea, and then once we kind of get there, they're like, all right, this looks good, could you do these few adjustments? And then they're like, okay, green light, we're good, let's move on. So ultimately, you're trying to please them.
Yeah. I have a friend who's a creative director, and it's interesting because it's like with our brand, I kind of shape the direction of everything, and it's just, but to have someone like to kind of hand that off to someone, that's kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah.
It'd be cool, but
yeah. But also you're a creative, so I feel like
it'd be
hard
tough.
to like people say stuff about how my brand should look all the time, and I'm like, yeah, but nah, I think I trust myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of like, all right, so you went from the wedding world to almost like networking, getting into like the real estate space a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you somehow transitioned into mostly doing brands.
Yeah.
And products.
Yeah.
So how did you make that transition?
I mean, it was just like, it was kind of the same thing where, say, starting off, I always have been just generally interested in like design or like general lifestyle or like food and cooking and stuff like that. So even though I was shooting my friends, I'd also shoot my coffee on my desk or like bake a cake and try to shoot it cool just because I was interested in that stuff. And it was my only means of like, I have to do everything myself to even get my foot in the door anywhere where I'm getting paid to do this. So even though I was shooting for the real estate agency, I was still doing stuff on my own. There's still other things in my book that were like coffee photos or like random food related stuff of me just like I might make like a pumpkin pie and try to shoot it in a cool stylistic way, and I just let it sit there and just be like, yeah, I'm a food photographer, like I shot this at my mom's house, you know what I mean? So
were you good like back in that time? Like was your work always
I feel like I feel like I've had kind of a natural talent for photography in a way. And it's not even as much of like, I feel like my curation and like personal aesthetic that I'm drawn to was always in the world of like things people might be want to hire you for in a way. Like I know, like I remember working at like PacSun and always admiring the like in-store signs of like people running around doing cool stuff. Like that was what I was looking at as my inspiration. Like working, I worked so many retail jobs, but I would always like when they do the like flip over of like, it's a new season, we got to get rid of these signs. I would like take them. And it was like inspiration to me. So I was always inspired by advertising photographers. So that was always my like, that was just what I was looking at and what I was drawn to, and just studying that and the way they compose things and the way text falls on images and stuff like that just naturally like built, I guess, my aesthetic and the way I shoot. So I was always drawn to like an advertising look. So even in my personal work, I was just trying to mimic that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I feel like entrepreneurs are just like naturally passionate about something, and their brains like operating in such a way, and like, it's kind of your job to like connect the dots.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's how it was for me, you know, as well. And I just feel like people who are entrepreneurs, like have their own business, like, you know, they were doing it long before they were getting paid to do it.
Right.
And I remember coming home from like, I would do shoots with friends and just coming home and like editing for hours.
Right.
And like seeing other people's work, like being really proud of the work at the time.
Yeah.
And be like, oh yes, this is great. This is so good.
Right.
And then like seeing someone else's work and I'm like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah. No, exactly.
It's like, how did they do that?
Exactly.
How do you get it to look like that?
Right. Exactly. But even I remember like, as much as I was always into the like building my skill set as a photographer, I was just as interested in figuring out how are these people getting paid to do this. Like listening to podcasts or just like in general, before like the like entrepreneur was like a buzzword, like just kind of being interested in like, how do I make money? How do I be successful? And it was always just like, what am I best at? Photo. Like it was the one thing I was like, this is what I feel like I'm the best at. So I'm just going to put everything into this, because this is the only way I can see myself really building anything or making like a high income. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think it was always like, it was like a level of like happiness, like, you know, working, like, I've worked in different retail places and then like washing dishes, delis, things like that.
Yeah,
I was like, this is soul crushing.
Yeah, it sucks.
And I just remember, and not making much money either, you know? So it's just like, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, also, I'm like simultaneously wasting my life to have just a little bit more money than zero.
Right.
You know? So I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to like not do that stuff and focus on this other thing, which isn't paying much more. But at least I like doing it.
Right.
You know?
Right. And the prospect is there.
Right.
Like, it's like, yeah, right now I'm not making much, but as long as I'm setting my prices, I can set my prices as high as I want. I just have to find people that will pay it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even now, it's like I can say as much as I want. No one can say you're worth this much. It's no, I think I'm worth this much. I just have to convince you to pay me that much.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I price gigs like based on like, I wouldn't want to do it for less than this.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like just having like that bottom line.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, that feels really unattractive for anything less than this.
Yeah.
And after the first couple where I'm like learning like, oh, it could be so much better if we had these other people.
Mm-hmm.
So like if the client has the budget for like these other things, that would be even better.
Yeah.
That would make the product even better.
Yeah.
But what would you say to like, you know, maybe someone starting out, like photographer wanting to get into whether it be like real estate or like the commercial world? I feel like the commercial world is so much more like intimidating. For me, like weddings, like I easily figured it out. Like it was easy to understand. You know, setting prices was easy to understand. Commercial world feels like it's more like ambiguous.
Well, yeah, everyone's so private.
Yeah.
No one wants to talk about it. Like I don't know what it is. That's something that's why I feel like I'm also drawn to like an educational aspect. Mm-hmm. And I think more people in the commercial and advertising photography world are opening up to it. But it's just one of those things. I think it comes with like, it's kind of part of a personality trait with like, it's just like it's this weird thing where like, if you're in it and you're doing well or something, you're just like, you're in it and you're doing well. So you're like, I don't know, like I'm good. And you don't feel the need to share or build more outside of it, or I don't know. Like even the thing, like when people ask me about usage, it's like, I don't know. It's all over the place. You just have to, you have to figure it out with experience in a way.
Right. Yeah, the usage seems like very ambiguous. Like,
everyone, even people that are doing it don't know. Like, I don't know.
It's like, I'm going to just try
number. You get an idea because you try and fail so many times. And then you're like, okay, I guess this makes sense. Or you get like lucky breaks where you're like, you'll put a line item for within these terms for this long, I want this much. And they might come back and be like, well, we actually want to work with you. Can you do this? And then you're like, okay, I want the job. Yeah, I can do that. And then it's just like, all right, next time I know that this worked for this person, or this seems to be a trend that's working, I guess I can charge this much. But
yeah, it's weird that there's not like a more clear industry rates. Standard. No, like, hey, this is what a photographer gets. It definitely seems very ambiguous.
Yeah.
In this, it seems like there should be like a standardized like pricing, but there's not. And like we were saying, like, does it just kind of fall on like how many eyes are like gonna see this?
I want to say that's like roughly the gist of if it's just on soul, or like how many dollars they're putting behind it too.
Right, which like when you're almost like asking the client these questions, it feels like you're fishing by like how much
they're never gonna answer it either.
Like how much can I charge? Like where is this going? Like what is this being used for? And it's like, what does it matter? Like, I need the images. It's gonna cost the same to make them, right?
Yeah, and it's tough because like, I mean, if it were an ad agency and you said, what's the usage on this, they're gonna give you an answer. But they're not. If you say, what's your budget, they're not gonna. Very rarely will they give you an answer. Once in a while, like you get lucky and someone will say, can you fit it within this? And that's like a godsend. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Sure. I'll fit it within this. And then I'll do one that's like a little bit more, and you might get a little bit more just to see if you'll bite. Mm-hmm. But yeah, with usage, it's really, like if you're shooting for a billboard, you're going to get paid way more than if you're shooting a bucket of assets for Instagram, which is starting to feel like kind of bullshit because no one cares about billboards. Like I'm going to personally, and I feel like in the commercial world, it's starting to go this way where people are like shooting for just like an Instagram grab is like maybe the lowest of the usage.
But is that like the most common?
It's the most common, and because that's the world we live in. So it's starting to feel like, wait, you're going to use this image on social and put how many ad dollars in like sponsored posts to promote it? It's going to see more eyes than the billboard. Like that's, no one's looking at the billboard. People are texting and driving. They're probably going to see it on their phone while they're driving before the billboard. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's like, it's interesting. The good thing with it though, what I'm finding is like, if you get a job, these jobs that I'm doing that are social grabs, if you do a well enough job, the client or the brand might be like, oh, this would be awesome used for in-store signage or some in a grocery store to promote it. And then you can, after that, as long as your contract's right and you're like, for this usage, it's just social, web, something like that, some digital medium.
So they have to come back to you and ask you to be like, oh, we want to use this in another place.
Yeah, that's why you have to specify exactly what the terms are. So it too could be like, you're good to use this for 2 years within this scope, and after that 2 years, you can't anymore, and I can reapproach you, and I can put in my contract this rate doesn't apply. I can charge double if I want. If you want to use these again, I could come at you and be like, oh, my usage rate right now is double what it was 2 years ago.
So in the invoice, you have like the shooting or like the production rate, and then you have a usage rate?
Yeah, separate line item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's everything's like day rate, assistance, whatever, all the production stuff, like models are this much, prop styles is this much, and then at the bottom it's like, and usage within these terms is this much. So the way you make your money is you have your day rate, but your usage is always more than your day rate. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
it's like the value of the art almost.
Yeah. So in an ideal world, you have your day rate and they book you for like 4 days, and then on top of that, you're getting paid your day rate for 4 days plus usage for the whole thing.
Is it usually a year or 2 years is standard?
It's usually like a 3, 5, or like in perpetuity is what I find. So it's like, and usually everybody they're like, I just want to use this forever for whatever, and I don't want to worry about it.
Right.
It's always a dance, man. Like, I can't say that I've ever, like, I just did a thing where I was like, I said 2 year, and then the creative director got back to me and he's like, listen, they want, for what you want for that 2 years, they'll bite if you just go unlimited. And I was like, shit, for 4 days, that's such good money. You know what? Like, I want the job.
Has that ever come back to like bite you, where it's just like you gave it up and then like, you know, the company got massive or something like that?
Not really. I mean, I think if I was speaking to a room of well-established commercial photographers and I said I put X amount for 2 years and then I let them take it forever, I would get booed and they'd be like, you're setting the industry up for failure. Like, whatever. But it's like, dude, I have to make a living. Like, and at the same time, it's for an agency that's giving me continuously big work.
Right.
Like, as much as I want to get paid, I want to please the agency, because I might have let you take it for this. I might have gone a little bit less on my usage to get the job because it's still a great income for that month. But also I'm making your life a little bit easier. And now you just want to, it just keeps the ball rolling of like, oh, we like working with Joe. He's flexible. I've never felt like they were trying to like screw me over. Like, it's been like a really good, transparent relationship of like, listen, sometimes it works. Sometimes they get back and we're just going to be upfront with you, which is like, it never happens. It's like a once in a career relationship I have with these guys. And I'm super grateful for it. But yeah, so it's like, that just comes back to like relationship building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like shooting a wedding and being awesome, making everybody laugh, and then everybody in the bridal party gets married and they all give you business. You know, It's just because you're a good person.
Yeah. I feel like that working with vendors too, you know, given, you know, just being flexible, day of, things like that.
I always have the mindset of like, I want to make as much as possible on every shoot, and I do have standards for how much I want to get paid. But if I like the client and I know I can build a relationship with them, that relationship is so much more important to me.
Yeah.
Because things like COVID happen or whatever. Like I just want to build relationships and have clients that are continuously coming to me because it makes my life easier. It's a little bit more comforting to be like, oh, I work for these people. And then it's like me and the creative director of this company have become like buds. And the minute he leaves and goes and does something else, if he goes to another ad agency or something, guess who he's going to call? He wants to call the person that he can trust, and he knows that will show up on set and like shoot the shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I remember getting back to the point you were saying with like hurting the industry. I remember when I was first starting out being in like community kind of building type like events, and you know, I was talking about pricing, and what I was charging I felt was like very fair, considering I had second shot weddings, but I just started my own business, and everyone else is like $1,500 more than me. Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't feel right charging more than what I'm charging now, and it's 10x like what I'm making shooting for other people, so I'm happy with it, and I feel like it's fair. And you know, I got a lot of crap for that because it's just like, you're hurting the industry.
But I feel like that's just like I mean, maybe this is like, I feel like that's just kind of a loser mentality. Like the way I see it is like, if you got that job for a little bit less, there's a good chance that you're charging that for a reason, and the client's going to miss out on something that if they paid a little bit more and they got me, or they paid more and got someone that's been doing this for longer than me and has even more experience, they're going to get more out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever see it as like, as I'm like gypping someone or whatever. Or it's like, I don't know, work a little bit harder so you're in the position where you can make that decision. Like, I had to work this hard to get to the point where I'm in the position to be like, you know what, I want the job. I think it'd be fun. I like you. I want to build this relationship. I'll do a little leeway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we'll still do that for clients. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's like a rare opportunity. Like, we just went to the Bahamas, and it's just like, I don't know if we did like a discount, but, you know, even while we were there, we stayed extra time. Like, we offered like, hey, do you want to like go do like a shoot on the beach? They said no, but like we at least offered it because, you know, we're in the Bahamas, and like they're a cool client, and they flew us out and everything. So it's like,
I mean, there's people that do like are shooting like Nike billboards, and maybe like I've bought in tutorials of stuff on like f-stoppers of commercial photographers, and I bought one in particular where the guy basically preached like kind of the opposite of what I'm saying, of like, if you're not going to pay me this much, don't waste my time type attitude. And I was like, you seem like a dick. Like, I regret buying this tutorial. The way you're approaching your business, sure, you might be making 10x what I'm making every year, but that's just not my personality, and it's not how I want to run my business. And I don't want clients that are attracted to, like, it's not my personality. I want clients that match my personality. Like, a lot of these people, like, the advertising world can be intimidating, but not really once you meet, like, the creative directors and stuff I've worked with, our personalities have meshed really well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like based on your personality and all these calls and things before, the energy you're bringing, if you're friendly and open and warm, like, you're just going to attract those people to you. And then it makes life even easier.
Yeah. Getting back to budgeting, that was something that kind of came up recently. We were on a call, and we were with, I think, like the marketing director, and I was like, you know, what's your budget? And they're like, oh, you know, we really don't know, and this and that. And I'm like, it makes it so hard. Like, because it's like,
do you really not know, or do you want us to throw you a number so you can ghost us or go for it?
Exactly. And like, you know, my friend Henry had said, like, budget is really, it's like, I could do it probably, you know, within reason at any spectrum. He's like, but if you got 100K, he's like, well, I can dream a lot bigger than I can at 10K. You know, like, I can bring in, you know, another director. I can bring in different cameras. Like, we can hire these type of actors.
Right.
Or we can go super low budget. and she didn't even say it. She was just like, oh, don't worry, like, you're not going to scare us,
Yeah.
And it's just.
Yeah. And not to cut you off. I think in those situations, what I've started to do is like, if they don't give me enough information, I'll get on a call and I'll ask based on experience, like, okay, what do you realistically need? Do we need to hire actors or models, or are you gonna supply people for that or whatever to do this? And then be like, and just get as close of like the picture of what they need, and then based on what they say, kind of throw out a number as a feeler. Be like, I don't know, I think like on other jobs we've usually come in around here. Mm-hmm. And then just based on their reaction, you're like, oh, that's what you were expecting, or that is not what you were expecting at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like that quick feeler of like, I'm going to throw out a number. I'm not saying this is the number I'm going to send you in the end, but it's just the feeler of like, is this too much for you? Because if this is too much for you, then you might be setting your expectations too high for what you need. And then I need to like set your expectations of, if that's how much you have, realistically, this is what we can do.
Right.
Yeah.
And like for video, when you start like adding things up of like how many people you actually need on set, and the gear that you actually need, like even having like a couple assistants to like help, because you just have a lot of gear.
Yeah.
It adds up quick, and then you got to work in like your own profit margin, things like that. So it's just like, it's not cheap.
No. Never.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with these smaller, say it's like a smaller brand or something, most of them have no clue what production costs are. Like, they don't do it often. You know what I mean? So like, as much as I might work for a big advertising agency, they understand production costs. It's not foreign to them. They've been there, done that. But then I still do plenty of work for smaller brands or startups and stuff like that who have never done a photo shoot, and they have no clue what it costs. And their reference might be, well, I hired my wedding photographer and he charged this much. But it's just different when you get in. It's like, yeah, but that's not what it's going to cost for me to to build a production for your shoot or like your product, and have a stylist and have different surfaces and like all these things that go into it that you're not thinking of. Like, so many people approach me thinking that everything that's in my book or my portfolio, especially food stuff, they think I'm shooting, styling. I have all those props in my studio that I don't have. Like, that's what, like, a lot of people approach me thinking that's what they're getting.
Right.
And I'm like, no, that's not what I do. Like, I can hire those people. We can get there, but you need to have the money to hire those people. Or I can show up and do my best to style it on my own and whatever.
You just kind of work with what you're given.
Yeah.
Like, if you came here and be like, hey, I want this mug shot, you could shoot it on this table. But it's only going to be so good.
Right. But if you want like a custom-made tile surface or you want to corner it and make it look like it's the corner of a kitchen, I'm not going to do all that stuff. Like, I'm going to hire someone that can do all that stuff because I don't have that expertise. So, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to do as much as you can, because there's been plenty of times where I've done as much as possible. I've been the stylist. I've been everything because I needed that client to pay my bills. And I was like, I think I can pull this off just well enough that I might be able to get something for my portfolio. You know what I mean?
And I think we're in a tricky space, because it's like when we started in the wedding industry, it was just like I was in that very position. So it was like I was coming in under everybody. This is what I felt like I was worth.
Right.
But now it's like we're doing really well with weddings, and we don't really have the experience in the commercial realm.
Yeah.
So we should be undercutting it, but we're also at that place where it's just like, well, but we also really can't do it for less than this.
Right.
Or else it's just like we're better off picking up another wedding.
Right.
Or else like we're losing money.
Yeah.
And we've during COVID, it was a little bit of a different story, because it was just like, hey, it makes a lot of sense to build a new vertical right now.
Yeah.
But even now, I think like you were saying earlier, like we're trying to transition into like the educational, like resource angle and kind of, you know, like what do we know? What can we offer? You know, and for us, it's like, okay, you know, we're really good at like making wedding videos, and we have a very good like system for scaling. So if like people are interested in like, hey, how can we like duplicate this product or like scale a wedding business like pretty quickly? It's like we can help you with that. You know? And that makes the most sense. It's like a lot of work up front. It's probably like a year of putting all the tutorials together and like making sets and like writing scripts and filming it and editing it and putting it out. But once it's made,
exactly, that's the thing.
You know?
Even like when in the beginning when we started talking, when I referenced that landscape photographer, he put out like a business of photography tutorial, and I'm always in the mindset of like, I'm doing well, but even if I pay $300 or whatever and I get one piece of advice that I feel like is valuable, is worth it, that I can implement. And he, to that point, was like, I have to sometimes not say yes to things because I might have an idea for a tutorial or something like, or to make, he like makes a lot of his own books. Like he doesn't use a publisher. He just has millions of followers on Instagram and stuff. But he's like, I have to take the time for those personal projects and maybe deny a client once or twice a year because I know that in the end, that product will probably make me 10 times more than that one commercial job or whatever. But you have to be comfortable with like, all right, I'm going to block off 2 weeks in my schedule. And if people want me for that time, I might have to say no because I have a bigger picture for like, I'm going to build something. It's going to run on its own after this. I have the network of people that will purchase it or whatever. And then like that can go for 5-10 years.
Right.
Instead of like a one hit, I got this job.
And it's probably too like, I mean, I don't have all the ins and outs of it, but like, I'm kind of thinking like, if there's a market for it, you know, which I feel like I'm always seeing ads for like, learn how to shoot weddings, things like that. Like,
it's gonna come down to like personality. I feel with all those things, you have to like the person that's teaching it.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, we bought one from Full-Time Filmmaker, and he's great. Like he knew his market too. It's like Full-Time Filmmaker. It makes sense. Like his course, like literally breaks it down. Like he's going over what camera to use. Like if you're starting out, like different cameras, what all the settings mean. So it's like he's going from like beginning, like a beginner to like an expert. Where I feel like we'd probably pick up on someone who is like already knows how to use the camera, is maybe in weddings, but like wants to refine their product and like be able to scale it.
Right.
You know? So like we'd be probably picking up at like more like intermediate kind of person.
For sure. It's hard. I think all the time when I think of like, I don't think I'm there yet to really like take the time to build a course or something, but I'm always thinking like, what are the things that were issues for me that would be easy now to translate to someone else, how I solve this problem or something. But I always find that like the deeper I get in my career, you kind of forget those things. Like a lot of little things that were like pain points. Like I just hired my first intern and it's like very like minimal work. And I was like, what do you want to know? Because I'm almost at the point where I'm like, oblivious to all those, like I have memories of like things that were tough, but you might ask me a question, I'm like, oh yeah, like I understand why you don't know that, and I just forgot because I've figured it out 3 years ago and I'm just like running on autopilot, you know what I mean?
That's such a good question to ask.
Like
because we have a few interns. I'm gonna go ask them now.
Yeah.
But like, what do you want to know?
Yeah,
like,
what do you actually want to know? Like, and it's just, and it's because it's like, oh yeah, when I was you, that's also what I wanted to know. But you get so conditioned as you go through your career, and then these things become second nature. So it's almost hard to like get yourself back to that place where you didn't know anything.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. For us, we had to write everything down in the process because we weren't set out to do like, oh, we're gonna do like these how we do it to like make a mentorship class, but like we're like, we need to write all this stuff down because we hired a few people and they don't know how to shoot like us.
Yeah.
So it was like that. So thankfully, like a lot of the work was already kind of done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just now making it like nicer and then like making it into a video, and whatnot. But I love that question. I'm gonna ask them.
That's like 90% of the reason I was like, oh, an intern would be cool, because as much as I can pay you to like do tasks and back end stuff and whatever, I can also almost relearn what the like pain points of trying to do this is.
Yeah.
And then try to take that and potentially scale it for myself, you know?
Yeah.
It's just re-engineering or whatever.
I would think for someone who's trying to break into commercial, I feel like the pain points are how do you start? You know,
Yeah.
that would definitely be one. You know, and we've taken different approaches. We've hired like an outside sales guy to like go after clients. We've invested like money into like software and CRMs to like create campaigns and things like that. And it doesn't seem like that really works.
Yeah.
We've tried like more grassroots things, just like reaching out to, we started with like real estate stuff, like reaching out on Zillow to like people who were listing things like over $1 million and like, starting there. But even that's like they want to see some kind of portfolio, so we ended up shooting a few for free,
right?
And then finding out that no one really wants to pay, you know, they want to pay like $150 for, you know.
The most I've ever got is like $325.
Yeah.
And those
are some nice ones.
That's like your premium real estate photographer.
Yeah. This one guy that we bought the course off of, he was making like $2,000 a video, and I guess that's not too bad, but there is more legwork in it. Like you got to go there, you got to scope it out, you got to see where the sun's setting, like when you're going to shoot what parts of the house and when. So it was, you know, nothing's easy, you know. It's like,
I mean, I have like one or two. I have one client that I still will shoot listings to from time to time, and it's because I'm like super close with her at this point. Well, like it's more of like, hey, I'll go do this, spend like a half hour, 45 minutes, and then we'll get lunch type thing. So I'm like, all right, it's cool. You pay me a little bit, but mostly I'm just doing it because you're busy, I'm busy, and I want to get together type thing.
Right.
But yeah, so I charge them kind of that like $325, and they're always like, you're so expensive. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like
that's the worst when you're doing something like you're taking a hit,
yeah,
and they don't appreciate it.
They're like, you're so expensive, and I'm like, well, I know, but like I'm not gonna be butthurt if you went and found somebody else that is doing what I'm doing and can do it for a little bit less. Like at this point, I'm really just doing it because I like you and I value your friendship and our relationship, and like. I just like you as a person. So if I have time, I'll spend an hour, grab a coffee, shoot some interior photos. Takes me like 20 minutes to edit it, and like whatever.
Yeah. I found too, like sometimes like with that, it's like when someone feels like they're overpaying for something, you could be coming in under, you're like, hey, I'm just doing you a huge favor right now. And they're like, oh my God, this is so much. Like in my head, I'm just like, and I've done it lately. I'm just like, I'm not going to charge you for this. Like, because you're going to be slightly bitter about this price that I feel like that I'm slightly bitter about as well, just for different reasons.
Right.
So yeah, I've tried to stay away from that.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, it's the one client that I'm like, this isn't even worth my time at this point, but I like you. I appreciate, like, you've done a lot for me in my career so far, like helping me network and stuff like that. And like, we just have a good time. We like just shoot the shit and whatever. So as long as I have time, I'm like, but I tell them all the time, I'm like, listen, there's going to be a day where I'm just like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And that day is basically now. Like
that day is today.
Like I did one or two things in January when things were slow, but I told them, I was like, you need to find someone else because I'm not going to be available.
Yeah.
So
hey, send them our way. We're trying to.
If you want to go to Boston,
we were thinking about Boston. Yeah. So we were thinking about like doing real estate, and again, I just think it's one of those things where it's not like lucrative to begin with.
No, it's not lucrative enough to go all the way to Boston.
Yeah. I mean, you're paying probably $20 just to park.
And then you're also in the car for like over
2
an
hours.
because, well, there and back, plus there's always traffic.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason. I mean, it's expensive to live in Boston, but that's why I live there now.
Unless you're shooting like, excuse me, like unless you're shooting like multiple properties in one day, if you could bang out like 2 or 3.
And then on top of that, you could offer other things like portraits or whatever.
Yeah, videos too.
Yeah.
Maybe video is.
If you could
bigger.
do photo and video together,
it
might be worth it.
Yeah. Because like around here, there's not a ton of real estate that's like in that price range, but Boston is probably a lot more of it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like not New York. You know? So we're just trying to like build new verticals and like, you know, I mean, we have 200 weddings this summer over like the next 6 months, so it's going to be insane. Yeah.
Damn,
so
that's awesome.
Maybe we don't need other work,
yeah, I mean, unless you, like, I had agents that used to be like, Joe, you're busy enough. Instead of denying this, like, coming and shooting a listing for me, why don't you just hire someone that you train to do it, and then you just send them off to go do it, and you make a little bit of money off of it. And I'm like, yeah, because I have other things I want to invest my time in.
Yeah.
But you could do that. Like, just that you have people that you hire to shoot weddings, you can do the same thing with real estate. Most people that are doing a lot of real estate photography and videography have the same thing as you, where they have like a team, and they're just like, okay, we're always busy, but I just deploy whoever to go do it, and then they're just like making a cut or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the way to do it. And like, because some of our guys, like, they like shooting more than they like being in the office, you know, so it's just like, if I can keep them shooting throughout the week, where you're just doing like 5 properties, you know, 3 properties or whatever, like a week, and then shooting weddings on the weekends, like, I feel like they'd be happier. But I don't know, we're figuring it out. I think it's really kind of, we're going to focus on these resource kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Because then you can easily just tie it back into Move Mountains as a whole.
Yeah, we were thinking like make a good like training camp too, you know, for like new shooters, because there's always going to be turnover like at some point, like, you know.
Have you thought of doing like why is the word slipping my like mentorships, I guess? Not mentorship. Someone called what's that called? I call you and you charge me X amount.
Like consulting. Yeah. So I recently made a page for it and trying to figure out the pricing. The problem with consulting, which I've had the problem with consulting, is like someone's giving you information and it's great, but like the minute, like, I mean, even if it's like $100 an hour, you know, I think we paid a consultant, it was like $250 an hour, and then he went up to like $500 an hour, and it's a lot, you know, but it's just like, I feel like the customer has a hard time justifying paying for information or paying like, you know, it's like, I'll give people, like, I'll talk to Mike and, you know, whoever, like, they have pain points with their business, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been through this before, like, it's an easy problem to solve.
Yeah, but you're so buddies with Mike.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's different.
Yeah.
I'll give you advice because I like you and we can do this. You know what I mean?
But I feel like it's hard to charge, like, I don't know.
I totally get that.
Yeah. Just for me to like give you information. Well, but it's like, it's like, I know the information I'm giving you, or even like I've done things where like I've set up like systems and I'm like, this is going to like, or it's just going to provide so much value for you. It's going to like allow you to see data in a different way. And like, you're going to be able to make decisions, and like, there's going to be such a payout. Which is like, this just made you like 10 grand, you know, if not more, over the next few months. It made you 10 grand. Like, over the next few years, like, probably hundreds, like, you know, if you scale it up. But it's like, it's $250.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things that's like not worth it.
$250 isn't that much.
Right.
You could do $2,500.
Right.
For like 2 hours in like a worksheet or like a follow-up call or something.
Right.
And the thing is, it's like, I totally get where you're coming from personally. Like, if someone were to ask, like, anytime people ask me for advice, I'm always like, but I don't know everything. Like, it's almost like imposter syndrome in a way.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you even if you were like, maybe I'll try this, and you did like 1 or 2 for free just for like them to write a review, and then you're like, oh, they actually did get a lot out of this. Yeah. Maybe it would build, and then you'd be like, all right. I mean,
like to do like
you know what you're talking about anyway. You know what you're talking about.
Right.
But I get that.
I'd like to do like with weddings and stuff. Like I feel like okay, I'm like an authority on this. Like I can definitely help somebody.
For sure.
But yeah, I think I'd rather like have someone almost sign on for like I'll be your mentor over like the next 2 years, you know, and I'll scale your business from here to like X, you know. But I've seen other like someone just sent me a photographer's page and I think they were charging like $1,600, $2,500. It was up there for like an hour session. It's like we'll get coffee and you can ask me whatever you want.
Yep.
And I'm like, that sounds
it's
awesome.
Nuts. It is awesome.
Yeah.
But you have to have the confidence to be like, I am for sure providing value to you.
And that's the thing. Like I would feel uncomfortable like if they weren't getting the value out of it.
If they're like, yeah, for sure.
And sometimes you don't know where to start with a person. Where it's just like, I don't really know where you're at.
Exactly.
You know, I could like be giving you a ton of information that is super valuable to you 6 months from now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just
I
giving
think
it
you'd
to you
have
too
to
soon.
have like some type of intake that they do, like a questionnaire or whatever that, like with anybody that wants to intern for me, I don't know what you have. I just have like a intake questionnaire. And I'm like, where are you at? What are you expecting to get out of this? Are you expecting to be paid? Do you just want experience? What do you think you'll be doing? Like, are you expecting to just go on shoots? Because realistically, that's what I need you to do the least of. Like, really, I need you to answer emails and stuff while I'm on set.
Right.
But I'm more than willing to bring you on a shoot, but it's not going to be all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I can put line items to hire someone that's like the best assistant for me instead of just some like intern, you know?
Right. Yeah, kind of having like the expectations, because sometimes I feel bad too. Like we've had a few interns that just kind of out of the blue, like, you know, the girl that was here earlier, like she had called me up randomly, like from the Met. She's like, hey, like, can I have an internship? And I was like, you can have an interview, like, come through.
I know.
And like,
yeah.
And then there's like a lot. It's just like
I love the cold call.
Yeah.
That just happened to me, and I was like, can you just email me?
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable talking on the phone. But she's been great. But like for a while there, like she came in on the slow season.
Yeah.
So it's like no weddings.
Right.
And like, she's like, you could like post some, like you can schedule some posts on like for Pinterest. Like, you know, it's like you have busy work and like you feel bad. It's like, I don't know if you're getting like a lot out of this experience right now, but you will in 6 months.
So for you, because I'm at the point right now where like a intern is like monumental, and it's not even like super, it's like, as of right now, it's kind of like project by project basis. But how did you know you were at a point where you could like, do you have people that are full-time or like steady part-time?
Yeah. So now we have a lot of full-time people, but like our first full-time hire was not that long ago. It was 2019. So it was like only like a year and a half ago. And it literally started like, it was just me. I had gone into school or back to school for a second semester of that program. And I think I had like 30 weddings to edit and like another 30 weddings like in September alone. And I was super backlogged and had a lot coming up. And I'd found a girl to start doing our editing. So it was like the first time I was like found someone to like and like delegated like the first big part of the business. And there was another girl, she was working at Ruby Tuesdays, and she was like, hey, I'm doing 10 hours there, I'm making $10 an hour. She's like, if you can like match that, she's like, I'd much rather like work here. And I was like, yeah, it's not that bad. Okay. Like, and I gave her a project and she turned it in. I was like, this is actually like more than I expected. Yeah. And so I just kept giving her more stuff. And so it like kind of came about like very organically. Yeah. And then by the time she went back home, because she's from Long Island, I just thought that was going to be like the end of like the 10-hour a week kind of thing. Yeah. And she just kept working.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, okay, that's fine. Yeah. Like, and then that like she ended up doing like 40 hours a week.
But did you run like projections, like income projections, and like, well, if I were to pay you X amount, I should be able to? Did you do that, or were you just kind of like, $10? Yeah. I know I'm good for it.
Yeah, it was such a small amount at the time, and I was getting so much value back that I was just like, yeah, this makes sense.
Right.
And then she kept doing more and taking more off my plate, and I just like that.
Right, that's where I'm at. I'm just like, I'm at the point where like I just want to focus like the creative. I feel like I'm doing so much more just like editing or invoicing and emails and like client calls and stuff that the actual just like shooting and being excited or like setting up test shoots and stuff like that. I'm having way less time to do that. And I'm like, if I could just hand this off. Or like even like outreach to art directors, creative directors, things like that on a consistent basis. Just like there's just so much to do. And once you're busy enough.
Yeah, I think the way I started delegating it was I took the thing that was taking me the longest to do, which was the video editing. And I was okay at it. I was better than most of the people I was trying to hand it off to.
Yeah.
But then like this other girl came along, and she like within 2 videos she was like way better than me. So I was like, okay, thank God.
Yeah.
And so that was like the most time consuming thing. So I got rid of that first, and then the other girl was doing more admin stuff, and she was like very detailed and organized, and she was efficient, like super efficient. Like I don't know how she got things done so quickly, and like I was like so impressed. And I feel like I'm not impressed that often. Yeah. So it's just like when I am impressed, I was just like, wow, like that's like, so it was kind of a no-brainer.
So for the admin, was she interested in like, are you hiring people that are generally interested in doing what you are doing? Or are you hiring an admin person that's like, I think what you're doing is cool, but I'm not trying to be a photographer type thing?
Say that again?
So are you, the people that are working for you, say you need them to do admin, are they approaching you or whatever, and they're like, oh, I want to do this because I'm interested in learning your business because I want to be doing what you're doing? Yep. Or are you just saying, I need someone to do admin, maybe they're fresh out of college or something, and they're like, I don't even take photos, but I guess I'll do this for you type thing?
Yeah, with admin, we don't really have an admin person right now. Like I feel like our sales guys do an admin.
Yeah.
The girl that had approached us, like she was going to the same school, so it's like I had saw that she was doing this very unglamorous task of like making the schedules and sending them out to everybody, even though like I think people weren't really paying attention to them and didn't care. It was like very.
But she wasn't interested in photography.
She had gone to Emerson, so she had a degree in film.
Oh, okay. Gotcha,
so I think she wanted to get involved, which was like super helpful. And I feel like the times where, because we've tried other people to replace her and other like that, and just no one's like lived up to it. And I think it's just like super helpful having someone that was very strong, like very strong with admin stuff, but that also knew about the industry.
Right.
Also knew about film and photography.
But like your sales guys, are they, because I'm just trying to, because basically where I'm at is like, I've hired an intern, but they're very much like like she might be doing something. She's like, hey, how would you light this? Which is great. And I'm more than happy to share information. I want to help people. But at the same time, I'm like, sometimes it might be nice. Like, what if I just hired someone that doesn't care how I lit this, but just wants to do their job? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you might be better off with someone like that who's just like, they love numbers, or they love data, they love organization and efficiency and things like that.
Whatever, yeah.
It's
just because, I mean, I feel like as like photographers or in the creative business, when you creative service-based business, it's easy to hire people that just want to like intern for you because ideally they want to be doing what you're doing. So they're trying to gain knowledge and experience of doing the thing you're doing. Like everyone that approaches me just wants to be on set and see how I light things, compose things, stuff like that. But like I've said, that's like the least that I need you to do. Like I can hire people that assist. That's what they do full time, basically.
Right.
And I'd love to have an intern or someone that I hire that is like, that's part of their role and I can trust them and train them. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, but there's going to be days where like we just need to get stuff done, and like maybe at the end of the day I can answer your lighting question or whatever, but I can't be like educating 24/7. If I'm hiring you and paying you, I need you to do what I need you to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough.
I think it's just finding a balance.
It's probably finding a person who like, who's not interested, who just like needs a job and like is good at admin versus like, I don't know, it's nice to like, when you were saying that, I was just like, yeah, I'd actually like to intern for you. Like, because I need to figure out how to do those things. I'd love to like learn that. But like, and maybe that's like a good opportunity to like bring someone with a video camera.
Yeah.
And like you're on set and you're explaining it, you know, for those classes or something.
Yeah.
Getting, like,
I've thought of that
stuff.
for sure. Like just setting up like a test with a stylist or something I know, and then kind of running through it that way.
Yeah.
More like running gun, like kind of set it up and then have an example photo and then explain based on that.
Right.
But
I mean, you could do it as like a mock kind of shoot.
Yeah.
Or, which I mean, could be kind of expensive if like you're hiring out all those people. Or just like bringing on an actual shoot.
Yeah.
And so, but
yeah, hiring's interesting. You're definitely way further ahead than me, but that's like right now I'm like, oh my God.
Hiring is like, it's super crucial.
It's super, yeah.
And it's like, I'm admittedly not great. Like I've made like I made this like final hire recently and it like didn't work out. And I was like, I need to get better at this.
Yeah.
Like this is not great for them. Like it's not great for the company. Like I need to figure out what it is that like I'm getting wrong.
Yeah.
And I think you learn something each time.
Right.
The biggest like takeaway that I from this last one was just like likability. You know,
oh,
I just hired off basically resume, and I just realized like this isn't my type of person.
Yeah.
Not that she was a bad person.
No, I get
but she
it.
just like wasn't. She didn't fit like the vibe and the culture
Right.
of the team, and it's just like it's hard to work with someone who like doesn't fit.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, yeah, I was like the first thing I got to be like, can I hang out with this person 40 hours a week? You know?
Yeah. I think too, it's like, I never really thought I'd get to the point where I just never really considered like hiring people or building a team. It just wasn't until like maybe last year where I was like, okay, I'm busy. And now I'm feeling the effects of like, I can't wear every hat. Yeah. So it'd be nice to have someone. And then that entrepreneurial brain comes on where you're like, well, what if I had like a full team, and what if they could do things and I was bringing in more revenue because I'm hiring people to do things?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that first step is super hard. Even just for me at least, like even just an intern, I'm like, oh my God, now I have to like sit down on a Sunday and think of what I need you to do for the week and like figure out the ebb and flow of like super busy this week, and then it might taper off when like the holidays come around, and what would I have you do, or am I going to be able to give you work?
Yeah.
Type thing.
It could be a nice way to like, if you're thinking about going like full team, to have an intern that you're willing to like invest in, maybe like have some expectations, like, hey, what are your goals kind of thing?
Yeah.
And be like, here's what I'm thinking, like, you know, and then they become like your second, and then eventually they're the one shooting, and then eventually you're watching them and kind of guiding them, and then eventually they're just doing it.
Yeah.
And, you know,
it's tough. Man,
it takes a lot of
because
trust.
like the girl that works for me now, she also is working for like a video production team, but they're able to pay like a salary to have her like edit, and I'm like, oh my God, imagine if I could pay like a entry level salary to someone one day and like have them full time, and then we could just like I just have a bunch of stuff we're doing all the time. I'm like, that'd be incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like even like being here, I mean, we've been a company now 5 years, but I remember when we first moved into our first office, it was like $500 a month, and I was like, man, like $500 a month, that's a lot of money. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to do this every month. Maybe this month.
Right.
But like long term. And then, that kind of transition, because it was all like freelancer, so it was just like when the work's here, like employees are tough because it's like freelancers, like when the work's here, you know, you pay them for the work that they're doing. Like an employee is just like you're paying them either way.
Right.
When the work's here.
Yeah.
And when COVID's here, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's doable. Like even in the position that like we're in right now, it's just like, you know, we have like a bunch of people like on staff, but I never thought, like the first employee we brought on, they're paying her $25K a year, which like admittedly
Right.
like not a lot,
Right.
and like I was happy that like she
But
took
still,
it.
it's still awesome that you can do that.
Yeah, but even at that, it was just like, this is a lot of
Yeah,
money.
I mean,
Like,
it's
I don't know.
scary.
Yeah,
Because
it
you're like,
was.
am I gonna make this back, or am I gonna
Right.
make another 25 grand off of hiring you?
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, it's tough. But yeah, I think ideally for me, like what a good situation would be is like I get bigger advertising jobs and I just focus on those, and instead of like, because I think my initial goal was always like, I have all these smaller clients and I'll eventually taper off those and just focus on like, even if I'm only on set for 4 days a month, but I'm making enough in that one job that it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing less work and making more money per work that it equals out. But it's almost like instead of just letting go of all those clients, it'd be so easy to just get someone who's coming up and is already kind of naturally talented and then have them assist for long enough that I could be like, okay, I'm not going to get rid of these clients. I'm just going to hand them off to you, kind of like with you with weddings and how you have
Right.
different people going on. It's not always you. Doing that with like restaurants and stuff like that and keeping those relationships, but just having someone that I'm like, listen, you trusted me. I trust this person. They're going to just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to send them off. Maybe the rate goes up a little bit or something, but I'm still making money off of it. Might be something.
Yeah, I mean, even with the real estate, like if you could hand that off, like you
Yeah.
said, like the restaurants, and that's the thing. I think it takes some time to like get them up to speed. But like I've also had people where it's like our video editor, like I was better than her, and then she was quickly better than me, and now she's
Yeah.
like amazing. I've had people who have trained on both photo and video, and I was better than them for a while, and now they're both better than me.
Yeah.
And like that was kind of the goal. It's like if I can get them to a place where they're better, or at least as good, or even if they're just not even as good, but they're like still pretty good.
Yeah.
Like any one of those works,
Yeah.
But it's like I guess it's like an investment, and it takes time.
Yeah.
It's like a people investment. And then there's always like the trade-off too. It's like the loyalty. Like, are they going to stick around? Or are they going to want to like go? Do you do
Right.
a non-compete? Like, hey,
Right.
I'm willing to like
Yeah.
invest in you, but give me 3 years. Like,
Yeah.
once I get you to this place, I need like to at least be able to have like an ROI, but
Yeah, it's tough.
yeah,
That's my intern with this the video production. That was her main thing. She was like, oh, they want me to sign a non-compete. And she was like super intimidated by it. And I
yeah,
was like, well, realistically, where you're at right now, you just graduated. Like, I wouldn't be so worried about it.
yeah,
But
yeah. It's tough. Non-competes are tricky.
yeah,
I feel like no one likes them.
no, I
It's-
wouldn't.
Yeah. I guess it's really just to like, I don't know, protect an investment, I'd say it's some kind of like security or some kind of just like, hey, we're agreeing on these
Yeah.
terms, because I feel like, I don't know, people could not honor them anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting doing it as a creative service business. I don't
Yeah.
know. At least for me, like I've said a million times, like I never really considered it until I started considering it. And I was like, oh, you could do that. Because I feel like at least in commercial photography, there's such a kind of like laid out blueprint of like, you get to X point, maybe you start getting some clients, but you're doing just like tests. And like I've done a lot of the prop styles and stuff in food styles I work with now on jobs. I originally approached as like, can we do like just a portfolio shoot? And if they think you're good enough or whatever, they'll be like, yeah, we'll set something up. Basically I'd make like a mood board. And I'd be like, yeah, maybe we could do this. We could shoot like salads or something or whatever. And we'd like prop it nice. They would do their thing. So it looks like a profession. Like it looks like at the end, it looks like I was hired to do it. Like a lot of stuff in my portfolio is just stuff I worked with prop stylists with to do for free as a portfolio builder, but it looks like you're hired to do it. And then that's the stuff I'm sending to clients, like ad agencies and stuff, to be like, look, I know I already am doing it. This could be your product or whatever.
Yeah.
That's usually the trajectory of like, you kind of start doing it. Maybe you start doing tests and stuff. You use those tests to pitch to ad agencies and stuff. And then you start getting jobs. And then you just hire people based on the job. And it's way less like you're kind of doing that, but you have like bigger business ambitions too, of like building a team or branching out and doing other things, or like I said, like keeping small, like it seems like the general idea is always you want to get rid of your small clients. Like if a client's paying you $1,000 for 4 hours or something, like a restaurant or whatever, the goal is never to like do that forever. The goal is to get that so you're getting $20,000 for an advertising job or more. And that's like you're doing that once or twice a month, and then you're like making a really great living. But I feel like the way I'm starting to think is like, I've built so much already. Why would I get rid of what I built?
Right.
You know, like it almost doesn't make sense. It's like I can still grow myself and keep kind of what I had and just find people to, like what you're doing with weddings. You can't shoot 200 weddings yourself a year. The only way you can do that is if you have a team of people that are doing it.
Right. Yeah.
But that's not the norm. I can't. No. And if there's people doing it that are like successful advertising photographers, they're not talking about it.
Yeah. There's very few people I feel like doing it in the wedding industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know so little about the commercial industry, but yeah, I imagine that's not really how it works. But there probably are some out there.
Yeah, there's got to be. But yeah, I mean, generally in the commercial world, it's just like, I just want to be doing the biggest jobs possible and just doing that all the time.
Right.
And then, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's something that, you know, it's building up at least one or two people to kind of hand off. Because, yeah, you're right. Like, it doesn't make sense to get rid of all those clients.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of cases of people that they're like, yeah, I just didn't have time for these people and they weren't paying me enough, and I started getting bigger work. Like I talked to a agent the other day that was interested in repping me, and I was talking about this, and it's like, she was like, yeah, I mean, the goal is to not do that stuff anymore. But in my head, as an entrepreneur, I'm like, yeah, but like that's such a good chunk of income every year. And I have such great relationships with these people that I know they would trust me if I was like, hey, I trained someone and they can continue doing this work. Just like you're booking me, but I send them. And they'd probably be like, yeah, that's cool as long as the work's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe too, it's not even training someone from the ground up, but maybe like finding someone who's already like pretty solid.
You can just float work too.
Yeah, because I'm sure a lot of people, like, there's a lot of great photographers, but they don't know how to get into the commercial industry. They don't know how to get clients. So if you could like provide that aspect, be like, hey, I could totally fill out your schedule. I'll give you X of every shoot.
Yeah.
And you know, we can grow together and that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. Where I'm at right now is like, oh my God, I'm seeing the doors open of like different, like I've been following such a blueprint to get to where I am. And then it's like, yeah, I can just keep doing this and maybe just get bigger advertising jobs and just be a big advertising photographer, hopefully, is the goal. But then I'm like, no, but I could do a lot more too. That isn't usually the like normal path.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And like have a bigger business than just being Joe St. Pierre, the commercial photographer.
Right. Yeah, that's what, I don't know. That's when I started out, I was just like, I know I don't want my name on this. Because like, I didn't know if I wanted to shoot weddings forever, you know?
Right.
And I wanted
It's a smart move.
Yeah. I was just like, I was really thankful in the long run, but it was hard. We did have that problem where like people were so like, all the reviews had my name in it.
Yeah.
So like transitioning out or like them not expecting me, it probably took like a full season.
Yeah.
I would say, you know?
So that's what I've been thinking a lot too, is like, because it's my name, my business is my name. When you think of like social media and stuff, everyone talks about like building your personal brand, but I'm not the guy to like get on Instagram stories and like, I've tried like sharing more personal stuff about my personal life and stuff like that. And even if people seem to enjoy it, for some reason, it's just like, but this isn't really like, I just like keeping what I do on my own. And then this is my business. And now I'm trying to transition and be okay with that, being like, personal brand is such a buzzword. You don't have to be a personal brand all the time. I can have my brand tied to my name and instead have people affiliate Joe St. Pierre Photography with a look and a feel and like a certain quality. So I almost want to be like, I'm just going to start treating this, even though it's my name, it's like, so isn't Calvin Klein, but you don't think of actual Calvin Klein or Tom Ford when you think of their brand. You just think of what the brand like embodies, you know?
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, it's just kind of like building that up.
Yeah.
And maybe it's almost like, I'm not sure like if you're like posting a lot about yourself, but maybe it's like, if it is like your name, like maybe it's like, but not having a face to it, you know what I mean? It's more about like the imagery and like,
it's more like itself. I'm like even simple things like just having like my logo as my Instagram thing and not my personal. It's like, I'm here because I'm a business and I'm going to post my business work. And then like my coffee on my desk it looks beautiful, but I'm not as worried about posting that. Like you need to like me, but I want you to hire me because I look like a professional first. And then when we get on calls, I can bring my personality into it. And then you're buying into me instead of me like curating my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cause like Joe St. Pierre, the brand isn't necessarily maybe a bit more glamorous than Joe St. Pierre, the actual person, you know? Like I can't keep up with it.
Right. Yeah. I honestly think it would be like an easy transition.
Yeah.
Like be like, it's myself and a team. So I'd be sending out like, you know, whoever.
Yeah.
To cover this, and they're gonna be your photographer,
right.
and you know, I oversee the vision of it and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like it wouldn't be that hard.
No. And then the thing is, when it like an advertising agency contacts me, it's always just me. Like they would never even have to know that that's a part of my business. It's just like, you hire me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For now.
Yeah. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Doing like a actual like full scale advertising shoot and having someone that I've like trained go and do it. I feel like that is so far from the norm. Yeah. I don't even know if that exists, but it'd be nuts.
It'd probably be pretty
Because
nice.
I think inevitably when you get to that level, you are hiring the person for their unique vision and what they bring to the table. You know, like I think like if Nike's hiring the photographer, they want that person that they're hiring to be there.
Right.
You know. But it's also weird because it's like when you think of like video, like I've been on sets, like commercial video sets that I'm like shooting stills along with the video people. And it's like, oh, there's the director and then there's the camera operator.
Right.
And it's like, you might be hiring the director. You know what I mean? Like,
but you're not thinking about who the camera operator is.
Yeah, but like the camera operator is controlling the visuals too. Right. It's interesting. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, but I think you can like teach style too.
Yeah.
You know, where it's just like, and that it took a while, but like I had a very specific vision for like the videos, and then I kind of realized, oh, I get these same shots every single time under like these same lighting principles.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just an equation. So if I can teach them like, okay, when you walk into, you know, bride prep and we do XYZ and I'm looking for this type of shot and it has to be, you know, very clean. It has to be like this many colors, like, you know, it then just becomes like, I need you to shoot the dress guided by these principles.
Right.
You know?
I think for me, it could be to like, oh, I'm going to offer you, we can do one shoot and accomplish more because maybe we could have 2 sets. So I'm always on set and I have someone else shooting too, that if they're having an issue or something's going wrong, I'm still there to like oversee it.
Yeah.
Or like make sure everything's being consistent and like and be there just to make sure it's going.
Where maybe
well.
you're the direct, you're looking at like the images coming into the screen.
Yeah.
You're change this, change that. And then you do that for a year, 2 years, 18 months. And then the guys like already know, they know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Exactly. They know what you like.
I feel like then you start becoming like an ad agency though.
Yeah.
Because people have said this to me and I'm like, oh, like an ad agency? And then they're like, oh, yeah, I guess that is kind of what that is.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I need an intern first, to really figure that out. It's cool to dream big, and I love doing it, but.
Yeah. That's what we've been, like, doing here. And, like, it's kind of, because it's like, why not, right?
Yeah.
Life is kind of short and that kind of thing. So it's like, and we started very small. Like it was just, I didn't even know really too much about a camera when I was borrowing my friend's camera. I didn't have gear, I think, for like the first 16 months of having a company. Like it took me a while to even buy a camera. And then it was like another while until I bought a lens. So it was just like, and now we're like, we got people on staff and like we're doing this many weddings. It's just like, why not try going big? Why not? Like, what else can we do?
Right. Well, then it even does also come down to like, what can I do outside of this as well? Like, say you wanted to buy a property or something and have income coming in from that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll do it, but I like thinking about it.
Having tangible assets for some reason, like I'll buy stocks, but like having a tangible asset, I'm just like, it's overwhelming. I don't know if I can have. I gotta manage that and like the.
Yeah, you can hire people to manage property.
Yeah.
But still. Yeah. I don't know.
But cool. Well, hey, thanks for so much for like stopping by and being patient as we got this place set up. Yeah, man. Maybe we could do it again.
Yeah, for sure.
Revisit it in like 6 months.
Yeah, maybe I'll be like, all right, I got
an intern.
I got a part timer.
Yeah. Cool. Any last like advice that you might kind of give someone who's getting into commercial?
I think my advice is always, I don't know, you kind of have to be a yes man to some point, and like just get your foot in the door wherever you can, because you can make if you want. I've always been like, I try to make everything, even if it's a small shoot, look as good as possible, because there's always a chance you could get some. I'm always like, I just want to build my portfolio to look as best as possible. Mm-hmm. So especially in the beginning, just say yes to as much stuff as you can, meet people, always be thinking about how you're going to make your work better, how you're going to network, and just say yes to a lot of stuff. I said yes to so many things. I still say yes to everything, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it was the same way when I first started out. Like I would say yes to every project. Yeah. And I would work as if it were like my project. Like, I would give it my best no matter what I was getting paid. If it was free, if it was $150, if it was $1,000, like it was like 110% all the time. And it was always just like, who's watching, who's listening, who's looking.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. And I feel like,
and then even shooting personal, like finding who inspires you and trying to shoot personal stuff that matches up with it, like an aesthetic or a vision or whatever, and that's just how you got to do it, man, because the work speaks for itself. I mean, you can be the best businessman too, but the work also speaks for itself. You have to have good work.
Right. Yeah, 100%. I
feel
like that we were
focus
like
on the work first,
yeah,
and then start focusing on the business stuff is what I think is the best way to do it.
Yeah, 110%.
Once you start getting clients based on your work, then scale your business based on that type of stuff. Yeah, I totally agree. I felt like we were like obsessed with the product in the beginning. Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. Cool, man. Well, hey, thank you so much. Anytime. Appreciate it. Anytime.